Please note that this podcast contains information regarding sensitive events, including domestic violence, assault, and abuse, as well as other triggering events such as murder. This podcast is intended for mature audiences. When Alice jumped down the rabbit hole, she immediately regretted her decision. A rabbit hole is a metaphor for something that transports someone into a troubling, surreal state or situation. This podcast will take you down the deepest of rabbit holes as it unfolds. The story is so compelling, so bizarre, and so heinous, it's impossible to look the other way. Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow were dedicated in the most horrible way to an ideology that should only be fiction. Instead, their ideology put them behind bars. Join us as we explore the lives, lies, and diabolical crimes of Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell. I'm your host, Kathy Brooks. Please follow and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Welcome to Season 3, Episode 1 of Afterglow, Unveiling the Idaho Cult. I am back. I had a wonderful vacation in Greece in the end of September. October, I've been getting myself resettled and working at my day job and everything. So I've also started focusing a lot more on Left Undone, Incomplete Investigations, my YouTube channel. And I'm making some changes in my day job. So hopefully I will have more time and I can get more episodes out to you a lot quicker. But for now, we are back with Season 3. And we are going to start out with a bang. We left off the end of May of 2020. So this episode is Season 3, Episode 1, The Bodies. On June 9th, 2020, the Rexburg Police Department, assisted by the Fremont County Sheriff's Department and the FBI, executed a search warrant on the property of Chad Daybell. That morning was crazy. I live on the Pacific side of the U.S., so I was dead asleep when this was going on. I had people that follow my channel calling me on Facebook, ringing my phone. I was like, what the heck's going on? Put the pillow over my head, go back to sleep. Wake up, and I found out that as I'm turning everything on, they're searching Chad's property. People were calling me, telling me, texting me. They're searching Chad's property. Everybody's out there. Something's going on. Nate Eaton of East Idaho News was in a helicopter flying over. Here's a clip of that. Okay, bear with the audio, you guys, because he's in a helicopter and he's trying to report the news. So you're going to hear some artifact and different things, but here we go.
All right, if you're just tuning in, we are on our way to the home of Chad Daybell, where police have served a search warrant. I'm not going to be saying much here. It will generally be just video from the air.
And can I just say, I'm looking at the video, how gorgeous Idaho is, how green, how serene it looks. And Lori Vallow took her evilness and moved to Idaho.
All right, everybody, if you're just tuning in, Nate Eaton here in the air. I don't know if you can hear me. The sound might be a little problem, but we are almost over the house of Chad Daybell. We are going to show you what's going on today and give you a shot. We're about, how far away, Chris? About 5 minutes away. 5 minutes away. Hi, Joseph. How you doing? We'll be over the house in just a minute.
I have to pause that. Somehow, I don't think he's looking at his phone, and Joseph, Emma's husband, Chad Daybell's son-in-law, makes a comment, and everybody that's watching this just sees Nate Eaton's face. And he's like, hey, Joseph, how you doing? We'll be over the house in just a bit. And it sounds super sarcastic. But later on, Nate actually kind of makes that sound a little less sarcastic and be like, Joseph popped into the chat and he's like, hey, Nate, or hey, Joseph will be over the house. But I don't know. I think it's classic. I love that because Joseph, FYI, Joseph was a big jerk to me when I started my channel and started following this case. He was in my Facebook Messenger. He was trying to intimidate me. He was bullying me. I need to go back and find all that crap. But in the end, it really doesn't matter how he was trying to bully this random YouTuber that had no experience, literally her first few months of being a YouTube creator for true crime. I think it just goes to show you how invested and how much they believed that Chad wasn't doing anything wrong, that those babies were not murdered by them, that Tammy died naturally. It's very strange. It's very strange. Okay, back to Nate in the sky.
All right, for those of you just tuning in, we are about a minute away from Chad Daybell's home, and the police are serving a search warrant. It is a sealed warrant, so we do not know what the warrant is in relation to, but it is a Rexburg case. And of course, Rexburg police are investigating the missing kids. We're going to give you a shot from the air. We're not going to be up too long. We want the police to be able to do their work, but we did want to get some video from the sky to let you know what's going on. And it looks like we are approaching the house, so we should have some shots here for you in just a minute.
So all you can hear is helicopter noise right now, but you can see as they circle and fly over the Daybell property, it looks pretty ominous. It looks like what we think they're going to find, they're finding. What we know now that they found, it looks like that's what they were finding. So it's like your heart just drops when you look at this, especially that day. That day in June of 2020, June 9th, 2020, I could not take my eyes off of this case. It was heart-wrenching. It's awesome that they found the bodies, but it's also just such a reality check that they did. Hoping and praying those kids were tucked away alive somewhere. Like, whose mom? Lori Vallow. Why would you kill your own freaking children? That's how I go. I just am like, oh my God. Oh my God. How on earth did this woman do this to her children?
All right, everybody, if you're just tuning in, Nate Eaton here up in the sky over Chad Daybell's house. Here's what we can see. There are multiple police officers here. There's at least one canine dog. It looks like there is an area of focus in the backyard. They have set up 3 or 4 blue canopy tents. They have taped off the backyard. And that seems to be the area of focus right now. That's about all we can see from here. We're not going to hover here too long. We're going to, try to get some different angles, but we do know that this search warrant was served today at 7 a.m. Rexburg Police, Fremont County Sheriff's Office, the FBI, they are all here. The FBI told us this morning that they are working with Rexburg Police to collect some evidence. This is not the first time that police have come to this home to serve a warrant. They were here back in January, and they removed dozens of items from the house. No word, we're not sure where Chad Daybell is at this moment, but police are definitely searching the property. We're trying to give you the best angle we can from up here as we continue to bring you some footage, and we'll go back now and show you what's going on. All right, there's the view from the sky. We're going to keep an eye on it. We'll have a full report later on EastIdahoNews.com, let you know if there's any new developments. Police are being pretty tight-lipped about this. as far as what they're searching for, but we might have some more information later today or tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in. We'll stay on top of the story.
Now, as that day went on, the helicopter was watching over the property of Chad Daybell, and they were putting up tents. So it was pretty serious that something big was going on. And on that day, Chad was there. When they came in to execute the search warrant on him, he answered the door with his son. Chad went and sat in his car. His daughter, Emma, was living in a house right across the street. Chad pulled into her driveway and was watching everything from behind. Now, as everything was going on, he was watching. He received a call from an inmate. That inmate is his wife, Lori Vallow Daybell. So when you listen to this audio of Lori and Chad, when I put my earpods in, I could hear it so much more clearly. So she kind of mumbles in some stuff, but basically I could hear it a lot better with earpods. But basically you could tell they were like, what? They're searching. Chad's like, I'm feeling really calm. I don't know. Oh yeah, you can try to call me later. I love you so much. Yada, 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 yada. They haven't seen each other since in real life, so there's that. This recording tells you almost everything you need to know. Here it is.
This is a call from and paid for by Lori, an inmate at Madison County Jail. This call is subject to recording and monitoring. If you don't wish to talk, hang up now. Thank you for using Telmate.
No.
Are you okay?
No, they're searching the property.
The house right now?
Yeah. Yeah. And then so Mark means we'll be talking to you.
Okay. What, are they in the house?
No, they're out in the property.
Are they seizing stuff? Again?
They're searching. There's a search warrant. So we'll just have this James. Yeah. I tried to set up a call. Lots of calls. So we'll see what transpires. You know, really. What? Yeah, pray. Pray.
I do for you.
I'm feeling pretty calm. I would call Mark, maybe just talk with him.
Have you talked to him already?
I did call him, yes.
So he knows what they're doing?
Yeah. So I can call from somebody else I need to talk to. I love you so much.
Should I try to call you later?
I don't know. I don't know. We'll try. Yeah. I'll answer if I can. I love you, and we'll talk soon. Okay. Love you.
As they dug deeper, more and more police arrive. On that day, they find bodies. They announce that human remains were found on Chad Daybell's property. At some point, Chad was like, uh-oh. He takes off and starts driving away. At that point, because they were keeping an eye on him while he sat in that driveway over there, they pull Chad over, arrest him, and take him to jail. And Chad has not seen the light of day since.
I'm Chief Shane Sherman with the Rexburg Police Department. Directly to my right is my Assistant Chief of Police, Gary Hagan. And then to his right is Sheriff Lynn Humphreys of Fremont County. Today, Officer Hagan will be giving the release, and so I'll turn the time over to him.
Okay, we'd first like to thank everybody for coming out today. Thank everybody that's been following this case from day one. This has been a very trying thing for everybody involved, and we just want to emphasize how thankful we are for everybody. Again, my name is Assistant Chief Gary Hagan. Spelling of my last name is Hagan, Hagen. Wanted to give a brief press release today about some events that have occurred today in regards to our missing children's case of Tylee Ryan and Joshua Vallow. This morning we served the Rexburg Police Department and the Fremont County Sheriff's Office and the FBI served a search warrant in the 200 block of 1900 East here in Fremont County, also known as Chad Daybell's residence. Throughout the investigation, detectives and investigators have recovered what's believed to be human remains that have not been identified at this time. We are not going to answer any questions at this time in regards to any of the further the investigation until we have more details, but we were wanting to get this out to let everybody know before there's speculation or rumor that starts flying. So again, we're not going to take any questions at this time. That we'll save that for a later press conference when we have more details. But again, we just want to reemphasize how much appreciation we have for you guys for coming out here and for covering this, and for the families and friends of everybody involved. So we appreciate it. Thank you.
Can you just repeat what you said about human remains?
Okay.
We can talk about that here.
I'm sorry again.
Can you just repeat what you said about human remains?
Okay. So during the investigation, the investigators and detectives have recovered what's believed to be human remains that are not identified at this time. There is, I do want to add that Chad Daybell, who resides at that residence, has also been taken into custody for questioning in regards to that. And again, we'll give further press release at a later time and take questions regarding more when we have that. So, okay, thank you. We're not for sure yet. So as soon as we find out, I'll let everybody know. Okay. That's all we can answer at this time. So. Okay. Thank you.
That it will continue through till tomorrow.
We're not for sure. So as soon as we find out more, like I said, we'll let everybody know.
For those of you just tuning in, we are over Chad Daybell's house in Salem. Multiple agencies have been here. Chad Daybell was taken into custody earlier today. There is one backhoe on the scene, and police are digging right now in the backyard of this home. They have also plotted out at least 4 other squares surrounded by pink or orange tape. Earlier today, one of the officers told us they could be here for days. This search warrant could last longer than just today. It could be tomorrow and on to the rest of the week. We'll give you a shot of the scene here, and we'll continue to keep you posted at eastidahonews.com throughout the day.
Press conference from that day when Chad was arrested.
I'd like to start out and thank each and every one of the family members, friends, news media outlets, the public, and all the officers near and far who have helped and dedicated so much time to this case of our missing children's case, Tylee Ryan and Joshua Vallow. I first want to say that we understand that there's going to be a lot of questions, but unfortunately we're not taking any questions at this time. I want to stress to everybody that this is an active and ongoing case. And as soon as we have more answers, we'll be able to hold another press conference and we'll be able to answer those for you. I just wanted to recap today's events. So today, the Rexburg Police Department, as well as the Fremont County Sheriff's Department and the FBI conducted a search warrant in the 200 block of North 1900 East in Fremont County. It's also the residence of Chad Daybell, that's a Fremont County resident. During the search of the property, investigators discovered what appeared to be unidentified human remains, and an autopsy will be conducted. Shortly after the remains were discovered, Chad Daybell was taken into custody and booked into the Fremont County Jail. There, Mr. Daybell will have his initial hearing tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. at the Fremont County Courthouse in a closed hearing. I will be emailing everybody out. I'll get a list from everybody that's here as well if they're wanting a copy of Chad's Daybell's booking photo. I'm now going to turn the time over to Sheriff Humphreys to discuss the logistics of the courthouse hearing for tomorrow.
So the hearing tomorrow will be a closed hearing. And what we will do is provide a video feed for those who are interested, which will be on YouTube. I do not have that address as of tonight, but it will be available in the morning. And that will be sent out if we have your contact information so that you can view the hearing at 11 o'clock. This is primarily for security issues, and because of the virus, the courts are still closed down to the public, and this is one way that we can provide a means for you to see what's going on. Thank you.
Again, we just want to thank everybody for coming out. We've needed your help just as much as as the public and the family and the friends and everybody that's been so dedicated to this case. So again, we can't thank everybody enough for everything that you've done. And as soon as we have, like I said, more answers, we'll be able to do another hearing and let you guys know. So,
sure. Can you clarify what the charges are for or charge?
At that time, that hasn't been determined, and that's prosecutors. Rob Wood will be discussing those probably tomorrow. So,
would you be able to clarify what he was booked on?
I can't answer that at this time again because I don't know the answer to that. And any other questions that we have, we'll have to say for a later date. So
can we reference what was put on the jail website?
If you'd like to, yes.
So would it be accurate to say, as Fremont County stated, that it would be a felony charge with no bond at this point?
I'm not 100% positive on that at this time. So. Okay, thanks for everybody for coming out, and we'll update you, like I said, as soon as we have more answers. So, thank you.
On June 10th, 2020, an affidavit of probable cause was filed for Chad Daybell following the discovery of the human remains on his property, which were sadly identified to be those of Tylee Ryan. and J.J. Vallow.
I think a lot of people trusted Chad Daybell, and makes me wonder who I should trust.
Reaction from the community and family tonight in eastern Idaho as developments continue to unfold in the case of missing Rexburg kids J.J. Vallow and Tylee Ryan. J.J.'s grandparents released a statement today saying the children's remains were found yesterday on Chad Daybell's property. Law enforcement still have not confirmed that update. Our Misty Inklet spoke with several people from the community today to hear how they're coping with this information. She's live tonight in downtown Rexburg with the story. Misty?
Well, Kim, again, we want to be very clear and transparent here. The grandparents, along with two other family members, have said that the remains are JJ and Tylee. However, Tylee's aunt, Annie Cushing, posting on social media that she has yet to receive any official confirmation, and law enforcement still has yet to officially identify those remains. But the community here still very much affected.
I think once he was taken into custody, I think all of us were like, oh, like we've been holding our breath, waiting for something further development.
That development coming after investigators found two sets of human remains on Chad Daybell's property in Fremont County on Tuesday. Daybell was arrested and charged with 2 counts of concealing or destroying evidence. That news leaving community members with mixed emotions.
It's pretty shocking and kind of crazy. We have such a small community around here that you just hope everything is so safe and secure. But man, it kind of scares you when you find out who you're living next to almost.
I've been experiencing this through my phone screen, but now it's literally like across the street from us. And it's kind of hit home in different ways than one, mainly just being a mother myself and having kids. I'm like, how can you treat your children this way?
The community has rallied around JJ and Tylee, putting up posters and making sidewalk art in their honor.
So it's just been very interesting to see how this case has strung different communities together, and even just as small as we are, stringing us into it too.
Though official identification of the remains has yet to be announced by law enforcement, grandparents Kay and Larry Woodcock, along with JJ and Tylee's brother and sister-in-law, Colby and Kelsey Ryan, issued a joint statement saying the remains are, quote, indeed our beloved JJ and Tylee. We are filled with unfathomable sadness. These 2 bright stars were stolen from us and can only hope they died without pain or suffering, end quote. Lori Vallow's niece, Melanie Pulowski, and her family also issuing a statement saying they miss JJ and Tylee very much and, quote, the family will continue to closely watch the developing situation and will anxiously await the pending conclusions with heavy hearts, end quote. And again, Tylee's aunt also releasing a statement on social media saying she hasn't gotten any official confirmation on the identity yet, and saying that, quote, people not rush to an announcement and that hopefully cooler heads will prevail. And again, Kim, still no official confirmation from law enforcement on those remains at this time, and also no timeline yet of when we can expect that confirmation. Back to you in the studio.
2 bright stars as the
So on June 10th, the following day after the bodies were found, Chad goes to court for his initial appearance. The judge is Judge Farring Edens. And the judge agreed with Rob Wood, the prosecutor's recommendation for a $1 million bond. During this hearing, Rob Wood confirms that the remains on the Daybell property belong to the children. One of the bodies is particularly just awful. This is Chad's appearance in court.
We're going to go on the record. Good morning here in Fremont County, Idaho. This is the case of CR 2220-755, State of Idaho versus Chad Guy Daybell. This matter is being held at the Fremont County courtroom via Zoom remotely. Mr. Daybell, the defendant, appears with his counsel. Mr. Pryor at the jail here in Fremont County. Mr. Wood appears remotely from his office. There is the clerk here, there's a court reporter, and there is some IT support that is also on the line. This is the date and time set for an initial appearance. The reason we're holding this hearing remotely via Zoom is due to a order that's been issued by the Supreme Court. In that order, it designates that whenever plausible, hearings are to be held remotely in order to effectuate safety of society and effectuate safety of all employees in the courtroom. In future proceedings, it will be an issue that's addressed case by case and hearing by hearing. That order is dated April 22nd, 2020, and has been issued by the Idaho Supreme Court. Mr. Daybell, do you read, speak, and understand the English language?
Yes.
Mr. Daybell, can you hear me okay today?
Yes.
Mr. Daybell, it appears that you have hired private counsel, Mr. John Pryor. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you'd like to retain him. Mr. Pryor, has there been a formal notice of appearance that has been entered?
Judge, I will get that filed within a short period of time.
All right, but Mr. Daybell, Mr. Pryor is your attorney for this hearing. Is that correct?
Yes.
Mr. Daybell, have you seen a notification of rights form that was provided to your counsel prior to the hearing here today?
Yes.
Do you understand all of your legal rights?
Yes.
Mr. Daybell, in addition to the rights that were contained in that notification of rights form that was given to you, I'm going to advise you of additional rights under Idaho Criminal Rule 5. Number one, you have the right to be at the initial appearance or appear via Zoom remotely like you are today. You don't need to make any statements today. You have the right to know what charges are being brought against you. You have the right to bail. You have the right to counsel. And you have all of the other rights that have been presented to you in that notification of rights. Do you have any questions about your rights, Mr. Daybell? I didn't hear your answer.
No, he does not.
You understand your legal rights, is that correct?
I do.
All right. Mr. Daybell, did you receive a copy warrant of arrest as well as the criminal complaint that has been filed here in Fremont County in this case?
Yes.
Mr. Daybell, have you had a chance to review that criminal complaint as well as the arrest warrant with your counsel?
Yes.
Mr. Pryor, I can read the criminal complaint in its entirety, or I can summarize it for you.
Judge, we'll waive actually formal reading of the criminal complaint at this time, and I've discussed that matter with Mr. Daybell, and we're ready to proceed forward without either a summary or a formal reading at this point.
All right. The court is going to summarize briefly what the charges are, so that that's on the record, and then we'll address the other issues we need to address. Let me get one more thing out of the way, Mr. Pryor. Ultimately, the Supreme Court order has ordered these hearings be held remotely, but it's my understanding your client is willing to waive his right to be here in court in person. Is that correct?
It is, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Daybell, is that also correct?
Yes.
With regards to the criminal complaint, it was filed dated June 10th, 2020. There are 2 counts in the criminal complaint. The first count is destruction, alteration, or concealment of evidence, a felony, a violation of Idaho Code 182603. The maximum punishment for that charge is up to 5 years in the state penitentiary and or up to a $10,000 fine. The allegation is that the defendant, Chad Guy Daybell, on or between the 22nd day of September 2019 and the 9th day of June 2020 in the county of Fremont, state of Idaho, did willfully conceal and or aid and abet another to willfully conceal human remains, knowing that said human remains were about to be produced used and or discovered as evidence in a felony proceeding. Inquiry and or investigation authorized by law with the intent to prevent it from being so produced, used, and or discovered.
Now, just to interrupt here, at this point, they are not charging Chad with murder. They are charging him. I think they really wanted to just get their ducks in the row, a lot of information back from autopsies, stuff like that. So they're just charging him at this point with 2 felony counts of concealment or destruction of evidence. We'll continue to listen.
Count 2 is also the same charge, destruction, alteration, or concealment of evidence, a felony. It's punishable by up to 5 years in the state penitentiary and or up to a $10,000 fine. It alleges that the defendant, Chad Guy Daybell, on or between the 8th day of September 2019 and the 9th day of June 2020 in the county of Fremont, state of Idaho, did willfully destroy, alter, and or conceal human remains, and or did aid and abet another to willfully destroy, alter, and or conceal human remains, knowing that said human remains were about to be produced, used, and or discovered as evidence in a felony proceeding. Inquiry and or investigation authorized by law with the intent to prevent it from being so produced, used, and or discovered. Mr. Daybell, do you understand the allegations on both counts that have been brought against you?
I do.
Mr. Daybell, do you also understand the maximum penalties on each of those counts?
Yes.
Mr. Daybell, do you understand that those maximum penalties could run consecutively, one after the other, or they could run concurrently? Do you understand that?
Yes.
All right. We've gone through the criminal complaint. We've gone through each count. I've advised the defendant of his right. We've gone through that form. Let's discuss the next hearing that's going to be set. Mr. Pryor and Mr. Wood, that next hearing would be a preliminary hearing or a probable cause hearing. The defendant has a right to have that within 14 days if he's incarcerated. It's my understanding that based upon previous conversations that there'll be a waiver of that speedy preliminary hearing. Is that correct, Mr. Pryor?
It is, Your Honor. I've had that discussion with Mr. Daybell. In addition, I've had that discussion with Fremont County prosecuting attorney, and at this point, we'll waive the time.
Mr. Wood, is that correct as far as the stipulation?
Yes, the state's fine with that, Your Honor.
Mr. Pryor, the court's going to grant that waiver and acknowledge that it's knowingly and voluntarily made, but I will need a written waiver of speedy preliminary hearing so that can be in the file for the record. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor. I'll do that. Thank you.
All right. With regards to a preliminary hearing, let's first talk about the logistics of that. Mr. Wood, how long do you foresee it taking to accomplish a preliminary hearing in the future?
No longer than a day.
Okay. 1 day. Mr. Pryor, do you concur with that?
Judge, I'm at a little bit of a disadvantage, but for practical purposes, I think a day would be appropriate.
All right. We'll set this for 1 day. Mr. Wood and Mr. Pryor, do you have a timeline that you'd like to look at as far as scheduling that today?
Judge, my preference would be within 4 to 6 weeks.
Mr. Wood?
That's fine. We do have a preliminary hearing on July 9th and 10th in the Lori Vallow case. And so if we are going to push it out that far, I'd ask that this prelim be at least the week of the July 16th.
Unfortunately, I'm going to be out of town the week of July 16th, and I won't be back for some time. So if we need to have it in July, it probably needs to be towards the beginning of July or into June. Otherwise, it's going to have to be the last week of July. Mr. Pryor, does that work with your schedule?
Judge, the latter part of June and the first week of July, the first and the second of July would be ideal for me if that's available to the court and to Mr. Wood.
We can make that work.
All right, let's look at dates then. I'm looking at the calendar. The end of June, it looks like those Monday is the 29th, and then Tuesday is the 30th, and then
Wednesday is July 1st, Thursday, July 2nd. Which of those days do both of you prefer?
I think the second would be best for the state.
Mr. Pryor, does that work for you?
Judge, I believe the second falls on a Friday, if I'm not mistaken. So I would like to see if we could do the first, and if necessary, we can have the second available in the event this thing runs a little longer, Your Honor.
Okay, so the second is a Thursday, Mr. Pryor, but I appreciate that you would like to have extra time if it does go over. So if we set it for the first, Mr. Wood, can we do that? And then if it spills over into the second, we'll make sure that date's available.
That'd be fine.
Okay. We'll set that then July 1st and July 2nd for the preliminary hearing or the probable cause hearing. Lastly, the court has issued the arrest warrant. The court designated that it would address bond and or bail at the hearing set today. And so I'd like to hear argument from both parties regarding bail. So why don't I hear from the state first, and then I'll hear from the defense.
Thank you, Your Honor. The state is requesting that bail be set at $1 million. While we recognize that felony concealing of evidence only has a maximum sentence of 5 years per charge, I think the background and context of this case necessitates a higher bail. One of the primary reasons we are asking that bail be set in that amount is that the evidence that has been concealed in this case, it's not simply a document, drugs, a gun. These are human remains. And we can, although those remains have not yet been positively identified, we are aware that those remains are the remains of children, which we believe is an aggravating factor. We have asked that the probable cause affidavit be sealed, but I would ask the court to take note of paragraphs 39 and 40 and the manner of the concealment of one of those bodies, which the state finds to be particularly egregious, both an aggravating factor and bears on character, as Rule 40 as Rule 46 allows us to look at. Your Honor, we understand that the possible sentence on this case is not that long, but knowing what the subject matter is, we find it extremely serious. And we would also note that because of what has been found on Mr. Daybell's property, should he bail out, he has strong incentive to flee. Clearly, this is the beginning now of an investigation into the deaths of children who are found on his property, and so that provides a strong incentive to flee, and we would ask that the bail reflect that. Whatever the court sets as bail, we would ask that the conditions be set that should he bond out, that he be required to wear an ankle monitor, and that his movement be restricted to Madison and Fremont counties.
Thank you, Mr. Wood. Mr. Pryor, I'll hear from you next.
And Judge, just for purposes of the record, my understanding is the court's allowing us to address this issue of bond, but that in no way limits us in the future to file a further motion for bond if that's necessary. And I believe that's the court's understanding and Mr. Wood's understanding as well, is it not, Judge?
Let me make that clear for the record. Because of the nature of timing and such, generally speaking, the court sets a bail based upon a probable cause affidavit, and then if a motion needs to be filed after, it can be filed. I did not set a bail because, frankly, it was timing. And so, correct, Mr. Pryor, I'm going to give you complete ability to file a renewed motion or a first motion to deal with bail. I guess de novo is how you could look at that. And so I'm going to set bail today. When you file your motion, the court will definitely give you a hearing for that, and we'll take it and make a decision based upon that.
Thank you, Your Honor. But in regards to argument, Your Honor, I would point out that the charges are, as Ms. Wood pointed out, carry a maximum of 5 years. Mr. Daybell is not charged with anything more serious. And quite honestly, for the prosecuting attorney to assume that in the future he may or may not do that, and that we should increase the bail with the idea that in the future there may be something else coming down the pipe is just clearly contrary to what the purpose of bail is. Bail is to assure that Mr. Daybell shows up to court. Bail is to assure that he's not a flight risk, and there's nothing, in, as far as I'm concerned, in his history that indicates that he's going to flee the jurisdiction. I would refer the court to the affidavit on number 26, and it talks about the last time that they saw the kids. If Mr. Wood's intention is to pursue further charges, my belief is that he would have pursued those. And quite honestly, at this point, the court needs to take consideration of what the current charges are and whether or not Mr. Daybell will show up to court. Mr. Daybell has taken the initiative to hire private counsel. He has shown up to the proceeding today. Obviously, he's in custody. But Judge, when the police showed up at his house last night,
I just have to interrupt for a second because on my end, I can see Chad's face on the Zoom call, and he just looks like the biggest dork ever. He's got this weird look on his face. His shoulders are hunched. It looks like a little 12-year-old boy that got called to the principal's office. Rob Wood, obviously they were being very strategic at this point of not filing the murder charges yet. So we will continue. But clearly, bodies in your yard, Chad Daybell, kind of thinking it looks like a duck, quacks like a duck. It's probably a duck.
Last night, Mr. Daybell didn't flee. Mr. Daybell didn't abscond. Mr. Daybell didn't run. Mr. Daybell's intention was, through his counsel, to turn himself into the court if that was something that was going to happen and address these issues. He has every intention of addressing these issues. He has significant family in the community. He has kids that live here. He owns property here. And quite honestly, I disagree with Mr. Wood. Mr. Daybell has every intention of staying in the community and every motivation to stay in the community and address these charges. So at this point, Judge, I would ask the court to put the bail at an amount that's appropriate for a 5-year felony sentence. I understand that there's been a significant amount of publicity with this, but publicity is not a reason to raise the bail to an extraordinary amount. And I would suggest that Mr. Wood's suggestion that a $1 million bail is okay, it's not okay, Judge. A $1 million bail is not okay for a 5-year felony sentence. And if in the future Mr. Wood decides to pursue other charges, I'm sure we'll address this again. But at this point, Your Honor, I think it's important for the court to set a bail at an appropriate amount based on the 2 felony 5-year sentences. I would ask the court for $50,000 on each count for a total of $100,000, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Pryor. The court has listened carefully to the argument of both parties. The court has reviewed Idaho Criminal Rule 46, specifically the factors contained in Idaho Criminal Rule 46 under subsection C. There are 10 different factors that the court has looked at. The court has also looked carefully at Idaho Code 192904 and the factors that are designed therein. In looking at the factors in 192904, there are 4 specifically that the legislators have set forth. Number 1, ensuring the appearance of the defendant. Number 2, ensuring the integrity of the court process, including the right of the defendant to bail as constitutionally provided. Ensuring the protection of victims and witnesses. And number 4, ensuring public safety. The court is cognizant that there is an absolute constitutional right to bail provided in both the Idaho Constitution and the U.S. Constitution. The court has taken all of those factors into account, and based upon those factors and the charge, the court is going to set bail in the amount of $1 million. The court notes that the charge is destruction, alteration, and concealment of evidence as pertained in the criminal complaint. I've taken all those factors into account. Specifically, the factor in Rule 46C, subsection 6, which designates I'm to take into account the nature of the current charge and any mitigating or aggravating factors that may bear on the likelihood of conviction and the possible penalty. The underlying charge here is destruction, alteration, and concealment of evidence. And the allegation is that the evidence was human remains of two different people. That's an aggravating fact, and the court has taken that into account. If bail is posted, Mr. Pryor, I'm also going to make conditions of bail. Those conditions will be as follows. Number one, I'm going to order that a waiver of extradition be provided to the Fremont County Office of the Sheriff. The prosecutor must approve the waiver of extradition by his signature on the waiver of extradition. A copy of that waiver must be filed with the court. Number two, I'm going to order that the defendant shall reside within the boundaries of Bonneville, Jefferson, Madison, and Fremont counties in the state of Idaho. The defendant shall not leave these counties for any reason. Number three, the defendant shall provide the court with his current address and shall not change his address without notifying the court. Number four, the defendant shall keep in regular contact with his attorney. Number five, the defendant shall appear for all court appearances. Number six, the defendant shall obey all laws of the state of Idaho and the United States of America. Number seven, the defendant will sign up for pretrial services and check in with pretrial services here in Fremont County on a weekly basis, as directed. The defendant shall have absolutely no contact with the victims' families and or any of the state's witnesses in this case. Contact shall include, but be not limited to, verbal contact, written contact, visual contact, text messaging contact, email or internet contact, and or telephonic contact. Such contact shall also include contact through third parties. Number nine, the defendant must wear an ankle monitor 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. He must have the ankle monitor in place before he is released from the Fremont County Jail. Any violations of the geographical limitation imposed herein must be reported immediately to the Fremont County Sheriff's Office and the court. If the defendant is notified that under the order to wear the ankle monitor, intentionally leaving the area of restriction, except for the purpose of obtaining emergency medical care, may be prosecuted as a crime of escape and subject the defendant to penalties under Idaho Code. If the defendant fails to comply with all of these terms, the court may, pursuant to Idaho Criminal Rule 46I and Idaho Code Section 2919, revoke the defendant's release and eligibility for posting of bail. Mr. Daybell, Mr. Pryor, do both of you understand what bail has been set at, as well as any conditions that must be met in order for that bail to be set?
Yes, Your Honor. Yes.
Mr. Wood, any questions?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
All right, we'll be in recess for today, pending that preliminary hearing. There will be a few things that need to be worked out, and we're going to go off the record for now, and I'll see everybody back here at the beginning of July. Council will have to communicate regularly, both with the court and with each other, about how this hearing is going to be held, whether it's going to be held remotely or whether it's going to be held in person. Mr. Wood or Mr. Pryor, do either of you wish to address that issue today?
Not today, Judge.
No, and I can, Mr. Pryor and I can visit and talk about that and see if we can come to an arrangement before we address that issue with the court.
All right, I will just state for the record that the court will need to make findings if we're going to do it live in person, and we'll address that at a future hearing on whether or not that's going to take place. With that, we'll be in recess. Thanks, everybody, for appearing.
So wild, right? Bodies found. Chad's yard. I mean, can you? I have not. Now, this has been 3 years now, but I still cannot wrap my mind around the fact that he buried them in his yard. What? All the open land and the forest and the Yellowstone and all that stuff that they did, and he buried them in his yard? hiding in plain sight. I mean, that is the definition right there. Now, I don't remember if we talked about this, but at one point, hindsight, when Lori was in jail, Chad went to try to get a loan to put a mobile home, to put some kind of manufactured home on his property. And, in hindsight, he was probably wanting to put it right on top of those babies' bodies. These people are horrible. They get everything, hopefully they get everything they deserve. And I am not even kidding, we are not there yet, but being in the same room with that murderous Lori, it was just surreal. I mean, and she thinks she is just right about everything. I can't wait till we get to all that. For now, I'm so glad to be back with you all. I'm so glad to continue my podcast. And again, if you are new here, this is a one-woman show. I am not a podcaster by nature or by trade. I'm a registered nurse, mom of 4, and a grandmother of 2. And so I got into this podcasting YouTube channel stuff, and here we are. So have a little patience with me. I know sometimes people are like, the editing could be better, this or that. But it's just me, one woman, editor, director, researcher, audio, visual, narrator. As I said before. And if you would like, my show is not monetized. I do not have any sponsors. I'd like to get them, but I don't have them. And the best way you can help me is share this podcast, let people know about it. Anybody that's interested in this case, we have dug so deep. If you've been with me since season 1, you know how deep we've dug on these people in this case. But I do appreciate you all. And if you would like to donate to my show to help support the show, there are some links in the show notes below for PayPal, Buy Me a Coffee, and Cash App. But if you cannot do that, just please give me a 5-star rating and give me a little summary of what you like about my show. That would help Apple and all the other podcast platforms push my show forward. And join us on Left Undone Incomplete Investigations on YouTube. We are covering some crazy cases right now. I will see you over there if you like YouTube true crime. I think I've blabbed on enough at the end of the show, and I will be back soon with Season 3, Episode 2. Hold on to your hat, everyone. It's gonna get hairy. Stay safe, stay well, and I'll be back soon. This is Kathy Brooks. Take care, everyone. Theme music by Dan Lebowitz. Sources for today's show, Nate Eaton.